Welcome to the Sent from Disneyland podcast.
Here age relives fond memories of the past.
If it's your first time joining us, welcome. On this episode, we'll take a journey into the past and explore Disneyland and Disneyland history with mementos, snapshots, and postcards sent from Disneyland from 1955 to the present. Today I'm starting off by thanking my patrons from patreon.com. You can join and receive mail from my desk or from my Disneyland trips. Special thanks to Random Olive, the first patron to this podcast, and to the e-ticket patrons Tania, Eric Daniels, Joe Gamble, Scott Booker, Monica Seitz Vega, Russ Romano, Michael and Christina Cross, Scott Cagle, and Sheila Harry. C-ticket patrons Serious Inquiries Only, Debbie Weinstein, Jennifer Schneep, Grace Coate, Ben and Noel Bruning, Patty Wolin, Angela Reynolds, and Aaron Moran. B-ticket patrons The Disney Rewind Podcast, Jeff and Paige Orton, and Joshua, and Exorable Tosh Bell. And the A-ticket patrons, Elise Sharp, Zealot Infinity, Alexis Robles, Maggie and Henry Byers, Angel DeBlois, and the All Aboard podcast. You can also sign up for my new newsletter for a chance to get some postcards delivered by the USPS to your mailbox. I am your host, your post-host Clocky, and today we have 2 postcards sent from Disneyland. The front of our first postcard has the number 2 engine, E.P. Ripley, parked at Main Street Station. You can see the engineer waving from the window, and if you look closely, you can see other guests waving from the passenger cars down the line. On the back it reads, "This Santa Fe and Disneyland passenger train circles Disneyland to give passengers a bird's-eye view of each land." It's postmarked July 20th, 1956, with an Anaheim cancel and a 2-cent red Jefferson postage stamp. Scott number 1033. I assume they visit the park on Thursday, July 19th, 1956, when park hours were from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. The weather was a high of 84 and a low of 64. Park attendance that day was 22,614. It's addressed to Mr. E. M. Yale of Oakland, California. It reads, 7/1956. Dear Monroe, just got here, and writing with a quill pen. Sure is interesting to see everything. Love, Mom and Dad. Mom and Dad were 1 year too late to see the Canal Boats of the World. Back in episode 67 of this podcast, I mentioned the Canal Boats of the World, which was meant to be an attraction in Lilliputian Land, a land which was scrapped and replaced with the 1959 e-ticket attraction editions of the Matterhorn, the monorail, and the submarines. There was a short-lived attraction called the Canal Boats of the World, which appeared in Fantasyland from opening day, July 17, 1955, until September 16, 1955. The attraction was placed at the end of Fantasyland and would have been easy to move to Lilliputian Land if that land had been added to the park. The concept was to have miniature versions of famous world landmarks which guests could enjoy while floating along in a big metal tub. Luckily, before building the attraction, Walt had returned from a European trip and suggested the canal boat style of water transportation still used in the Storybook Land canal attraction today. Looking at my replica 1955 Disneyland map, the attraction is briefly mentioned in the description of Fantasyland as a canal boat of America, England, and France. An informational pamphlet from 1955 simply suggests to ride the canal boats along with other Fantasyland attractions like the Teacups or King Arthur's Carousel. Great news! Enfield Post is back up on Etsy. Grabbing some vintage stamps is a great way to plus your mail, whether you're trying to match the color of your postcard or envelope or adding a themed stamp to the back of your mail. Be sure to check out Enfield Post. You can head over to enfieldpost.com and explore all the different vintage stamps you can use on your next card or letter. That's ENFIELDPOST on Instagram and enfieldpost.com for your wedding and vintage postage needs. Enfield Post is the official postage stamp sponsor of the Sent from Disneyland podcast. The front of our next postcard has the Casey Jr. train going up and over a dirt hill with some sparse vegetation. You can also see part of the track in the foreground. On the back it reads, Casey Jr. smiles his way uphill and down dale as Fantasyland weaves its magic spell at Disneyland. It's postmarked July 25, 1957, with a San Francisco Save the Easy Way, buy U.S. bonds, cancel, and a torn postage stamp, but looks to be a 2-cent red John Adams postage stamp. Scott number 806. I assume they visited the park on Tuesday, July 23, 1957, when park hours were from 9 a.m. to midnight. The weather was a high of 83 and a low of 58. Park attendance that day was 28,256. It's addressed to a Mr. Charles and Louis Tattle of Seattle, Washington. It reads, "To Chucky and Louis, this is the Casey Jr. we saw passing by in Disneyland. We are having a good time. See you soon. Say hello to Grandpa for me. Love, Shirley." Although this postcard was mailed in 1957, it's an original Disneyland postcard, or a P-card, so it actually shows part of the canal boats of the world. When the attraction opened, it was not complete. There were no miniature models of famous landmarks, no indication of foreign lands, and little to no plant life. It was just a boat ride through mountains of dirt. Cast members would take guests through the canal and talk about the future attraction and other future attractions coming to Disneyland. The original boats were loud and needed to be turned off in order for the attraction operator to give their spiel. Looking at my copy of the Nickel Tour, the 8 original boats had names, which included Nellie Bly, Lady Katrina, Lady Shallot, Annie Oakley, Gretel, Bold Lochvinar, Lady of the Lake, and Lady Guinevere. All of the boats' names are based on legends, stories, or poems. The book also has some images of the attraction, which has the same footprint as the current Storybook Land Canal Boat attraction, except with nothing to look at but the dirt and the passing Casey Jr. train. The attraction closed after 2 months. Looking at the 1956 guidebook and the 1956 Disneyland map, the Imagineers had made it clear what the new attraction would be. The guidebook includes the name Storybook Land and has an image of the canal boat entering Monstro's open mouth. The map has an opposite image, showing a version of the original concept art for Storybook Land, having guests sliding down Monstro's tongue and away from the whale at the end of the attraction. The map and the guidebook would have been available in early January, and the new attraction opened in mid-June. This incoming postcard is sponsored by the Art Throwdown. Art Throwdown, or ATD, is an online craft hour on Instagram, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific. Be sure to check out Monday's ATD, which is usually hosted by paper artist Russ Romano. I see many amazing art projects, learned about awesome postmarks, postage stamp history, and a lot more on different episodes. It's great to stop in for an hour to watch someone craft or design something unique. Each host brings something a little different to each show. I'll list some of the regular hosts, or you can follow Russ Romano 2021 on Instagram. The front of my incoming postcard has the cast of the Haunted Mansion movie gathered around a crystal ball with an image of the Haunted Mansion in the middle of the ball. To the left, it reads, Disney, Haunted Mansion, world premiere at Disneyland, only in theaters July 28th, hashtag Haunted Mansion, hashtag Movies with Mars, hashtag Twix. And on the back, you can see 3 hitchhiking ghosts with a phrase, "There's always room for one more," printed next to them. It's postmarked July 31st, 2023, with a Santa Ana cancel and a 2022 United States flag postage stamp, Scott number 5659. It reads, Hope you enjoy this Haunted Mansion postcard. Thank you so much for the postcard, Kayla. Disneyland passed these postcards out during the fan preview of the movie at the park. I thought this postcard was fitting to use, as the Haunted Mansion movie is currently in theaters, and the Haunted Mansion just celebrated its 54th anniversary at the park. I'm sad that Sunday, August 13th, will be the last day of the regular or classic Haunted Mansion. Starting Monday, Jack Skellington will be decorating for Halloween and Christmas. The mansion will be put back to normal, usually around mid to late January. Thanks for listening to Sent from Disneyland. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and tell your friends. It would be awesome to share your favorite episode. There are over 100 episodes to choose from. It would also help to leave a 5-star rating and comment at whatever podcast platform you use. If you'd like to support the show financially, please check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/sentfromdisneyland. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Sent from Disneyland, or on Twitter at Sent from Disney. For questions and comments, send me a postcard addressed to Sent from Disneyland, P.O. Box 44, Hood, California, 95639. This podcast is not affiliated with Disney, the United States Postal Service, or any post office or Disney properties. Opinions expressed on this podcast belong to its host and guests of the Sent from Disneyland podcast.